Ewan from Modano back again with the next step in the quick getting started guide of getting your first model set up in the new Modano 11 environment. If you haven't seen the first video on opening and selecting your first model template, go back and watch that. Assuming that you're picking up where we've left off, we're now obviously looking at connecting your model to your accounting package. So picking up again, we have opened our model. This is a chart of accounts 6 model, single entity and based in Australia. So the first thing, now that we've got the model open, is heading to the time series infrastructure, so 5A on the table of contents here, and setting up the time series parameters. So you can see this is definitively a monthly model. We have financial year end currently set to December. I'm going to change that to June. Obviously choose what is appropriate for you. What is the first financial year that we want to start the model in? 2021. So therefore the model would by default be starting in July 2020. You can start at partial period as well if you want to start halfway through, depending on when you've got historical data from. And then finally, the duration of the model. Now I want to increase this from 36 periods or 3 years to 4 years. I can simply change that by typing in 48 and hitting enter. Now the software hops in, says I'm going to update the time series, and what this is doing now is extending out our forecast for a further 12 periods as we have increased the term of the model, obviously by 12 more periods. And once the model goes through there and opens everything up, then we'll be able to double check the time series, make sure that everything's set up correctly, and get in our historical data. So now we've got our model as 48 months or 4 years in duration, beginning in July 2020. The final piece is then setting our historical forecast split. So currently we have the model starting in July 2020 with historical information going through until December 21. For demonstrative purposes, I'm going to say I want historical information through to March 2022. I'm going to hit update, and again the software is going to update our time series infrastructure, this time adjusting the historical forecast split here. So now that I've got model beginning in July 2020 with historicals going through until March 2022, and then we'd obviously be forecasting from April onwards. Now to take a look at that, I might just hop over to our financial statements here, and you can see denoted by the H in the time series we have July 2020, and then if I zip across, then you can see we have historicals up until March 2022, and then denoted by an F in the time series, we're forecasting from April 2022 onwards. This is the split that we want. We're happy. So now again, I'm going to hit in A1 to go back to the table of contents, and we're ready to integrate our accounting package data into the model. So the way that we do this is heading to 3A on the table of contents to our historical income statement. Clicking anywhere within here and up on the Modano tab, we're simply going to hit the Connect Model button. So hitting the Connect Model button is where we establish the link between your accounting package and your financial model. Now if you haven't connected your accounting package yet and it's not shown in the list, then simply hit the Connections button here, and this will take you to your Modano account where you're able to establish a connection. Now we currently integrate with Xero, QuickBooks, MyOb, Sage and Microsoft Dynamics. To create a connection, simply click on the appropriate button at the top here, follow the prompts, and once you've logged in, that connection will then be listed on your connections page here within your Modano account. So once you've created a connection between your accounting package and your Modano account, simply hit refresh on the page here, and then it should be listed. Now I'm going to use our Twisted Serials little demo company here to pull data in, as I want to build an example model of this Twisted Serials company. Now you'll notice down the bottom here we have tracking categories. This is where you would select your tracking categories that you have in, say, Xero, for example. If you were looking at using a business unit or creating a business unit model, as this is just a single entity, I'm going to select none and then hit next. Now by default, when you're first importing into a model, this will select the entire historical period, as we previously established, July 2020 through to the 31st of March 2022. We obviously want to import data for the entire historical period, and then we're going to click New to create a new mapping profile. Now once we hit Next, this is actually contacting your accounting package, so in this case is downloading our dummy data from Twisted Serials, and then we have our mapping profile. So what this mapping profile is how do we want to translate our accounting package data into strategic buckets to drive our forecasts. So we can do many different things here. You can do one-to-one mapping, many-to-one mapping. If you have very disaggregated accounting package data, you can condense that down. Just to show you an example of that, if I wanted to condense down my 3 revenue line items, I could drag them all on top of each other, where, as you can see here, there is a thick green line on this one line item. dragging them all on top of each other, and now the 3 zero source accounts are being condensed into one category within the model called Cocoa Big Sales. That's just an example of many-to-one mapping. I obviously want to forecast out these revenue line items individually as they're important, and then for me to actually get the data in, if I don't want to map it, or if I'm happy with one-to-one mapping, easiest way is to simply hit the auto map items button at the top, and then what this will do is automatically scale up the model, pull in all of your accounting package data on a one-for-one basis, and then we'll be able to ready to import that all into the model. So after hitting that auto map button, you'll see the model has been scaled up. It's brought in all of my accounting package data on the left here on a one-to-one basis. I've got my reconciliation balance down the bottom here to make sure that NPAT coming from the accounting package matches NPAT that's being calculated within the model. And then as a final check, I'm just going to click up the top here and span the left and right keys to make sure that we are reconciling perfectly in all periods. Everything's looking good. So as a final case, they're quite big revenue numbers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the bottom left a conversion factor of 1,000 just to divide all the numbers by 1,000 and get some of the weight out of the model, so it's easier to see the wood from the trees, look at significant figures. And once I'm happy, I'm going to hit import. That'll then paste all of those values into the model, and then we're ready to hit yes and import our historical balance sheet information into the model as well. So this obviously brings up the connect model dialog again. I'm going to select twisted serials as well, choosing the same historical period, and again clicking new to create a new mapping profile. And once you hit next, again same thing, pulling through our historical data, and then I'm going to hit auto map as well, scale up the model and bring in all the data on a one-for-one basis. And then also to note is that conversion factor of 1,000, it has been automatically included from the historical income statement, so we don't need to re-enter that again. So again, now you can see all of our data has been mapped in automatically by the system. Conversion factor is there. We're going to hit import. Again, that is dumps all the values in, it's all pasted in. And we've got our historical information through to March 2022. Now, one final thing to note is obviously we divided all of the information coming into the model divided by 1,000. So as a final piece, I'm going to click in A1 to head back to the table of contents, go back to our time series infrastructure at the back on 5A on the table of contents, and I'm going to change my denomination from single dollars to thousands to reflect that if I saw a value of 100 within the model, that would mean 100,000, not $100. So that's one final piece just to make sure that we have consistency across the representation of our data. And now that we have updated our denominations, we have our historical income statement and historical balance sheet data, we're now ready to go on to building out our forecasts and choosing the appropriate drivers for our financial model. One final piece to note as well is if you want to go back in and remap any of your data, you can simply go back into your historical income statement or balance sheet, hit the connect model, load the same dialog again, and then you can basically select the same mapping profile. And then if you wanted to remap anything, or if something was misclassified within your accounting package or your bookkeeping data, then you can simply unallocate that and drag that into somewhere else where it may be appropriate if you notice anything after you've originally imported. And at any point in time, if you want to refresh the data, say you've updated some numbers within your accounting package, you don't need to remap them, but the numbers themselves may have had some new transactions added or removed, then we can simply use the refresh connections button to update and refresh the data, choose the date range that we want to pull the data from, again run it through that same mapping profile, but there may be different numbers coming from the source, being Xero, My QuickBooks or Sage, and then simply hit update, and then that will refresh everything as well. And now we're ready to head on to the final part of the process.